Good day, everyone. My name is Vince Aligado. Together with my groupmates, Aseo, Basco, and Bation, we're going to tackle about the 6 tips for safe mooring operations. Course outcome: to know the safety tips and what to do in proper way during mooring operations. Learning outcome: at the end of the session, the student shall be able to understand the safety tips and do the proper ways to maintain safety during operation, and they will apply it once they are on board in the near future. Importance of the topic: in this type of risky operation, the crew must have communication at all times to avoid injuries, or worse, death of any crew. Communication is the vital factor that can get work done run smoothly, with no casualties, and also avoid loss of life on board.
Today, sir, I'm Decadete sa iyo. 6 types for safe mooring. The first is use appropriate line. Choosing the ideal mooring lines depend on the local factors such as the water depth, the tidal winds, and the wave energy, as well as on the material of the mooring lines are constructed from. The combination of both materials and the condition where a vessel is conduct its mooring operation play a crucial role for the operation to be fruitful. When operating for the mooring lines, keep in mind the weight and diameter of the line's compression to require strength, velocity of the material, durability including resistance to high temperature, strong sunlight or chemicals, whether the lines will float or not, requires maintenance including method and ease of repairs, ability of replacement line in vessels except trading area. Log in lines and know their exact position. When acquiring new mooring lines, it is vital to report them and know their exact position in the vessel. This can easily achieved by keeping log in which you may include the position to each line on board. Manufacturer date date first abuse on board and hours under tension. The second, set an inspection system. Ensuring the ideal mooring operation, it is important to follow the steps below. Calculate estimate life expectancy, set retirement criteria, set interval for routine, detailed inspection, require third-party assistance for inspection, reduce strength testing, under the possibility that any damage, defective or unseverable piece of mooring equipment is found during inspection. It must be taken out of service and be either to replace or repaired.
So for the continuation of the tips for safe mooring operation, so number 3 is the plan operation. So another step to be taken prior to beginning the operation, it is to exactly plan the procedure, creating a mooring plan based on mooring position, the area and the environmental conditions. So also the plan should be clear on the number of the lines that are going to be used in mooring, and the crew in charge of the operation should assess the situation. So we can see in our slide in the right side we have a mooring plan that shows the position of the mooring lines to be used. So next tip is the toolbox meeting. So the toolbox meeting is a crucial step not to be avoided, as those participating will in detail analyze the plan, the potential challenges, and what mitigation measures will be followed. Moreover, the meeting will provide safety instructions for those who will conduct the operations, so in case of emergency, they will be able to handle the situation, and highlight that all mooring area is a snapback hazardous area, meaning that all crews should be extra cautious during mooring. So next is the execute. So following the preparations, the plans, and the alerts on the risk of mooring, the time has come when the crew has to provide the lines to shore party. So during the operation, it is vital to always have in mind the hazards and provide clean instructions to all parties, so that everyone is aware of their exact place and responsibility. Keep in mind that communication is the key during operations, as all parties should follow orders and be informed during the execution of mooring. So, in case of an abnormal situation, if something seems out of the plan, the crew members have to report it so that it is rapidly handled and any potential accident is prevented. So, the last tip is the post operation. So, after the vessel is safely moored and secured in a place, the crew members have to secure all lines but everything back in place, as housekeeping is essential on board a vessel, and then carry out the debriefing of a team. So during the debriefing, the safety officer should debrief the crew, referring to all stages of execution, as the crew should have regular follow-ups on what they could improve in the operation. The debriefing additionally gives room for additional discussions on safety issues that were detected during mooring operations. So next is the mooring challenges from line manufacturer's perspective. So what is the main difference between mooring equipment guidelines 3rd edition and the MEG4, which is the mooring equipment guidelines 4th edition, is the revised for 3rd edition from your perspective? So Konstantinos Koronakis, the main scope of all MEG4 or the mooring equipment guidelines for 4th edition recommendations is to upgrade the safety of the crew, to assist with the construction and selection of the most suitable mooring lines, and to enable all involved parties to properly compare and select the suitable mooring rope, its quality and price in order to follow the mooring equipment guidelines for edition. The line manufacturer has to conduct several tests that define the properties of the rope under the presence of a third-party surveyor. So it is clearly defined that all strengths correspond to splice lines, and for mooring tails, the reference is made to lines with condition. The line manufacturer has the obligation to provide to the consumer detailed manual that includes safe handling instructions, adverse onboard wear conditions, mooring fittings, proper maintenance, inspections, and evaluations of ropes condition, splicing instruction, post intermediate, destructive test, and retirement criteria, and all other information that is useful for establishing proper and safe optional conditions.
According to MEG4, the involvement of line manufacturers in relevant procedure is considered as important. Is there a need for all related requirements to be addressed by line manufacturing companies as well? Safety for sea. Any requirement in regard with mooring ropes can be addressed by the line manufacturer. However, depending on its nature, there is the possibility that the manufacturer is not the appropriate person to reply. The rope manufacturer acts as an advisor or expert. All final decisions are responsibly taken by the operators. MEG4 introduced new terms as well. What is your opinion on set limits, ship design, MBL, and LDBF? By the definition of ship's design, MBL, a reference uniformity was achieved. All strength parameters, mooring rope, mooring fittings, brake holding capacities, etc. are calculated using this value. In this way, any misunderstandings are avoided. According to MEG 4, parenthesis 5.4, each mooring line needs to be assessed for service life expectancy, involving consultation by manufacturers. How easy is to determine the service life expectancy of a new line, and what factors should be taken into considerations? The manufacturer can estimate and propose the expected service life for a new line based on various tests which are made at yarn and rope level and his experience factor from tests and feedbacks received. The rope's lifetime is affected by the operating mooring conditions, the line's directional angles, horizontal, vertical, heel angle, DD ratio, the conditions of mooring fittings and mooring frequency. Each operator has to define mooring lines, service life
expectancy taking into consideration manufacturers' proposals. Ships reports as for conditions, inspections, wear, repairs, ports visited along with the weather conditions, etc. And finally, their own experience factor. Is there any way for a user to determine the maximum period of use of a new purchased line on board, under normal environmental conditions and frequency of moorings? Provided standard environmental conditions and specific repeated mooring operations, the operator can choose the most damaged line which will be test destructed. Depending on the results of the destructive test, along with all data from record-keeping booklet and manufacturer's proposal, the operator can define the line service expectancy. From your experience, are there any tips for all line user regarding inspection, use, and storage of lines? The best tip for the user to inspect, use, and store the lines is to follow the recommended guidelines as described at manufacturer's relevant manual, along with the operator's instruction referred into line management plan. It is recommended all data to be accurately recorded by experienced person, crew, officers, inspectors, and any other third party for reference when needed. What is your key message to operators with respect to MEG4? After 1 year of the implementation of the MEG4, we believe that the progress has been made, but still some time is needed for all involved parties, builders, operators, line manufacturers, and crew to optimize communication. MEG4 is oriented to the safety of the crew and the rest involved parties. All missing information and gaps from the previous edition are completely covered. Last but not the least, it points out that the operation at the mooring area are considered dangerous but at the same time safe, if all precautions recommendations are followed.